evening. Oh, I can't even get my words out. You can tell it's been that sort of, it's a good day, but a long day. So, how are we doing?
All good over here. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. I'm looking forward to, if you hear a rumbling, that's my stomach. I'm looking forward to tea. So, I've got a
You know that.
nice barbecue chicken lasagna waiting for me.
Nice,
So
nice.
we'll get cracking. I don't think this is going to be a massively long one. We said that last week, and it
I was
ended.
gonna say, I think we start it every week.
Yeah, and then it's just we get going, and that's it. We had some really good feedback on the last one as well because I posted it up on the link up on my socials and positive feedback on the stuff on kind of this balance between weight loss, fat loss, cardio fitness. I got a good couple of comments on that. And some good comments from the guys on the Shape Up or the girls on the Shape Up
Yeah,
group on some of the information that we covered. So plateaus and stuff like that. So I'm glad it's useful, and hopefully, if the more people listen to it, it's only starting small, but the more people who listen to it, we can help more people, which is good. So we'll get cracking. Should we deal with the stuff on the check-ins first? You were just saying before we kind of started recording. I'll look up at the camera. What we were going through.
yes, we've got a couple of different ones that are more rather than any questions, more just what people have been struggling with and what they've noticed on impact. So one of the conversations I was having this week was around alcohol and how that can affect fat loss, which one of the things we haven't actually covered yet in this round of the shaping up because when we did the last one, it was all like December, Christmas parties.
Yeah.
There's a lot of alcohol involved. Whereas this time of year, you find a lot more people are doing like dry January. They're not going out as much because it's January. So it's not really been a main topic, but it was just one where it's noticed how scale weight can massively change after just one night of drinking, and how that can really impact our weight loss journeys and with our fat loss as well. So yeah, it was just sort of going through what impact that has, and it's not just about the alcohol, is it? It's all the other decisions that you make that come with it. I guess is
Yeah,
the
I mean, alcohol's a big one. It is a um I'm not a big drinker. I don't get me wrong. I do, when we go out and socialize, I do like the occasional drink, but it's something that you do have to consider. If you are on a fat loss journey, you have to take into account the calories that are consumed. I mean,
yeah,
if you're looking at, and different drinks have different calories. So if you're looking at a pint of, so a pint of strong lager, for example, some of the continental lagers like your Stellas and things like that, a pint is 250 calories.
yeah,
Um, and it's quite easy to consume 3 or 4 pints, and there you go. You've got 4 pints is 1,000 calories.
yeah.
You've got things like your fruity ciders can be even more, can be up to 300 calories for a pint.
You've got
I'm a real
well,
ale drinker. I like my pale ales, which are just as bad.
yeah,
Um, and then you've got your wines, so a bottle of wine, which I guess that a lot of our target audience, it's things like red wine, white wine. At the weekend, you get to Friday night and you're going to have a couple of glasses on a Friday, a couple of glasses on a Saturday. Before you know it, you've consumed 700 extra calories.
yeah,
So you do have to be conscious of that. But like you say, it's the knock-on effects. So we tend to make poorer choices when we've had a drink. Especially if you've been out for the night. And I'm a little bit old for going clubbing now, but you go. I remember the days you go and have a few drinks, and then you'd stop off and I still do it every now and then. If me and Rosie go for a drink in town, and I don't need it doesn't need to be many drinks for me now. It's three or 4 pints, and I'm wanting to stop off at the takeaway on the way home to pick up some chips. And when they
never
ask,
been
yeah,
that. It's a
yeah,
good thing, I guess. I've never got the whole like drunk hungry. We used to do it where we'd get like cheesy chips on the way home, but it was more my friends. Like I could easily just go home and go to bed.
you're lucky.
I know.
I'd go,
But
yeah,
yeah,
but
it's tough,
then
isn't it?
you're eating with your eyes as well, because alcohol
Yeah,
can have a wider impact. So you're making those decisions where you're going into the takeaway and you're looking at the board and you go, "I fancy that, and that," and you've come out with a feast, which you then try and eat when you get home or on the way home, and it's you've got like your 750 to 1,000 calories, if not more, for kind of the alcohol, and then you eat another 750 to 1,000 calories with your takeaway food. So it is being aware of that. And obviously, if you are on a fat loss journey, you're more conscious of it. So you might make better choices. You might think, well, I'll just have gin and tonic, gin and slimline tonic instead, or a spirit with a diet mixer. Yes, that is going to be lowering calories.
Yeah.
But it still has the impact on your decision making. And then there's the wider impact. You've got disrupted sleep. You do not sleep as well with alcohol. Therefore, you're going to be more sluggish. You're not going to make great decisions the following day.
Yeah.
Lack of sleep, as we've said before, can affect your hunger hormone. So your ghrelin, the one that makes you hungry, increases. Your leptin response decreases, so you don't feel full. And then it can impact on your water retention. So alcohol dehydrates you initially, and then you get the rebound, so your weight can spike. So what you quite often find is if you've just been out for a few drinks and you've not eaten, your weight might drop. You might actually stand on the scales the next day and go, wow, I've dropped a pound, 2 pounds overnight. And then the day after it goes boof, back up again. And it's so my advice is I'm not going to say to people, don't drink.
Yeah.
And that you can't drink on a fat loss journey, but it's being mindful that, as we've said before, when you look at the scale weight and you see those fluctuations, think, what have I done the previous day, the previous 2 days that can impact on that? And then, but it is just being mindful of the calories and things like that.
Yeah,
And
I think that's the thing, isn't it? That you could very easily, just on one night out, knock, even if you've been in a deficit all week, just on that one night, you can put yourself like back in an excess, because like you say, if the amount of it depends on how much you're drinking, the amount of calories in the alcohol, and then if you're having food on the way home or anything like that, you can easily just completely knock out that deficit from the week in one night. It's just one of those. And like you say, it's the water retention that where you do step on the scales, it can.
And we've said before, the wider conversation is that yes, you can bank calories earlier on in the week, but then the temptation for that is that you save too many calories, so that when you get to the weekend, you're starving and you properly go for it. You think, actually, I've been really good in the week, I've saved all these calories, and then you go crazy. And as if you've had a couple of drinks, that decision process isn't as good. So you go, oh, I'll just have another one or another one. And so I think that in terms of that, there's a couple of tips that I would say is that, one, yes, you can bank calories, but don't do it all the time. Don't think I'm going to save calories in every week for the weekend. Your weekends should be fairly similar to your weekdays. And that's something that I've said in the group a few times. Don't try and starve yourself in the week to have more at the weekend. Eat a little bit more in the week, include some of the foods that you like in the week, and then at the weekends, just moderate it, bring that down so it's a little bit more in line. But if you are going out for a drink, have a plan, say, right, I'm going to have these drinks. So I'm going to stick to gin and tonic. I'm going to have 2 or 3, and then I'll go to soft drinks. And if you're worried about people saying, oh, you're not drinking, or because that's the other thing that frustrates me. And as somebody who will go out and not drink, I'll sort of volunteer to drive quite a lot, and that does give you an out. You say, oh, do you want to drink? No, it's all right, I'm driving. But if you do get people going, oh, why aren't you drinking? You can just say, my favorite question is, why are you asking? Why are you interested?
Yeah, I think so in my family, I've always been like a little bit different. I put in the group chat the other day, like a bit of a joke. I said, I think I'm either adopted or I was swapped at birth, because I've just poured away 4 open bottles of wine out of my fridge. And they're like, why did you keep opening more? I'm like, I don't know, but I kept finding them. And I'm not a huge drinker, and I'll always be the one that'll offer to drive, or even if I'm not, I'll happily just go around to my mum's or be at the family thing and not have a drink. And they've just given up asking now, so eventually they'll get over it. But it is hard, because it's such a social norm, I think, in our society, to go out, have a couple of drinks, or have wine with your dinner or anything like that. And I think people will question it. But eventually they will give up. I promise you, they get bored.
And I think you've just kind of hit something there. It's that, it's what we become, it's accepted behavior that people go out
Yeah.
and drink. And and actually, if you are somebody who takes care of yourself, is thinking about your health, thinking about your fitness, thinking about your weight management, thinking about the effects of alcohol, you're seen as a bit unusual. And it seemed like
Well,
it's a bit of a weird one, where you're seen as obsessive because you want to look after yourself,
yeah.
whereas actually the norm is to go out and get drunk. And it's a bit backwards. And I think one thing that I noticed now, I used to have, I used to drink quite a lot, and I would say to the point where I was probably getting on the verge of being alcohol dependent. But when I stopped drinking completely for about 3 years, and one thing that struck me is that when I did drink again, and I didn't drink a lot, and I don't drink a lot still, the impact it has on me, my sleep quality straight away deteriorates. And it's not just, I think it's probably that I don't drink a lot, but it's not just one day hangover. It's 2 or 3 days. And I don't get terrible hangovers because I don't drink a lot, but it's that sluggishness and things. And I think actually, if you really massively reduce your alcohol intake, if you are somebody who drinks every weekend and you think, actually, I'm only going to do it maybe once a fortnight or once every 3 weeks or even once a month, you'll start to notice the benefits. And those of you who've done dry January, it's something that you really notice. It's like, wow, this is what not drinking feels like. And I've had a few clients who have stopped drinking completely, and they don't drink now. And they will do occasionally, but really they don't drink at all. And the benefits of that are massive. So yeah, it is something. And I think it's the whole conversation around the weekend stuff and having balance, bringing the weekend so it's more in line with your week. Plan your weekend food. We're really good quite often at planning what we eat in the week, and then the weekend's like, oh yeah, just go with whatever. I tend to plan what I'm eating. I've got a routine. We have a Sunday dinner on a Sunday. Saturday we have a little bit more of a relaxed meal. But again, it's within moderation, and I'll still plan my lunch or my breakfast on a Saturday. And I said last week what my routine was, but it's having that plan and that routine. And if you do go out, it's having that limit already set in your mind.
Yeah.
I'll have 2 or 3 drinks, done, you know. And don't get me wrong, every now and then I will go out and have my blowouts are not the same as everybody else's blowouts. It's like maybe 5 pints and that's a blowout. But, you know, every now and then I'll do that. And I think that's good. It's good for the soul, but it also reminds me why I don't do that anymore, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. What was the next one on the sheet?
I've got here a lot of people. I think it's must be. Don't know what's going on in the world at the moment, but a lot of people seem to be quite stressed at the moment with a lot going on with like work, home life, all of those things, which obviously is then having an impact on sleep. So yeah, I think there's a few conversations I've had this week, and I've seen it in my work as well, where stress levels just seem to be quite high across the board at the minute. So I just want everyone to know they're not alone. It does seem to be everywhere. Everything just seems to be a little bit more stressful, but then it's how that's impacting on all those other areas as well, such as your sleep. And again, I guess that can impact your like your decision making as well, can't it? Like, I know I'm really bad for stress eating, but some people are the opposite, where they don't eat when they're stressed, which can be just as bad. Because then that can have the impact because you're not fueled enough, and then that can then impact your sleep, and then you get stuck in this vicious cycle. So yeah, it's more, I guess, little bits on like stress management.
I think with stress, it's understanding what you can, and not, this isn't just with fat loss, it's just with overall health. It's understanding what you can control and focus on that. There is always going to be stresses in your life. There are always going to be things that are going to happen. And I think the main thing is kind of, right, what is it that I can control? And you can control what you eat, you can control your activity, you can control your sleep, water intake, stuff like that. So it's kind of, right, let's focus on that. And I think actually kind of really narrowing down your focus, and making sure that you've got the energy, that you've got the mental energy as well as the physical energy to deal with it. If you look after yourself, you're going to be in a better place to deal with the stresses and the things that cause anxiety. And then also just to kind of, I think it's something that I do, and it's something that was a tip that was given to me by my sister actually, who works in, she's a nurse and works in mental health to a degree. It's kind of, think if you've got a situation, think about what's the worst thing that can happen, right?
Do what I do.
Yeah, and then think about how likely it is that that worst thing is going to happen. So the worst thing is generally not as bad as we think it is, and then the chances of it happening are quite small. So once you've rationalized that, it's kind of, do you know what? I can deal with that. Actually, even if the worst thing happened, I can deal with it. It's not very likely to happen. So why am I worrying about it? And then another little tip that she always gave me as well. We have the things called worry pads, and I think I've mentioned this to you as well. You know, and having a pad of paper by your bed, if you can't sleep, write everything down on it and that's in your head. Because the thing that affects me from sleep, stops me from sleeping, is there's thoughts churning in my head, and quite often it's not even stressful. It's just I'm thinking about stuff.
Yeah.
Write it down. Yeah, write it down. And I worry about forgetting things. So I just write stuff down and I know it's there. And then quite often when you read it in the morning, you go, why the hell was I stressed about that?
Yeah.
You know, once it's out of there and on the paper, it's that I've started journaling again. I've started doing my journal, and every evening I write down things like what are my wins for the day, what am I grateful for, what do I need to do tomorrow, and then I'll just like a stream of a lot of it that underneath is just a stream of absolute rubbish. But it gets it out of here onto the paper, and then I'm done and I'm fine, and then I sleep. And then once you sleep better, you're more
it helps
prepared to deal with it.
The other really good tip that I know, it was one that you taught me well, was the 4D is a really good one, especially with like work stress. So you can do like defer, do, delete. I can't remember the fourth one now. They're the main three.
Do,
delete, get it off the list.
Yeah. So it's do the stuff that's really important.
Yeah.
If it's defer the stuff that's not so important, delegate if somebody else can do it, delete if it's not really that important at all.
And I think, that's for me, that's one that's like really, really helpful. Because at work, sometimes we get stuff just like coming in. You can have your day planned perfectly. I know a lot of other people are probably the same, and then something will come in that just throws it all out the window. So by prioritizing that way and looking at what you can do, defer, delay, and delete, it just makes things a lot easier to manage. And then,
I do that with a lot of stuff. So I there's something called an Eisenhower diagram or an Eisenhower matrix, where you end up with kind of you've got stuff that's urgent, not urgent, and then important, not important. And you can kind of go, right, is it urgent and important? Yes, do it. Is it urgent but not important? And it's like, well, yeah, delegate it, give it to somebody else. Is it urgent? Is it important but not urgent? Then you can defer that, do it later. And then if it's not urgent and not important, forget about it. Yeah. You know, or you can do that stuff. That's your luxury stuff sometimes that you can do when you've got a moment, if you ever have a moment. But I think those are sort of loads of little different tips. There's lots of stuff, and you can Google stuff for stress management. But I think the main thing is, if you're anxious or stressed about something, take action. Because actually burying your head in the sand is never it's just gonna make things worse. So think about what it is you can do, take action and do something about it. And you know that quite often the worst thing that can happen is never as bad as we imagine, and it's probably not going to happen anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
other ones we had was tips on hitting protein and fiber was another big one from this week. A couple of check-in forms and a couple of conversations we've had were around fiber, which is a good one. I think it can be forgotten about, even though it is really important for our health. So just some little tips on upping those.
I mean, and fiber is something. It's a conversation I've had with a lot of people, and it's one thing that's worryingly, with the trend of things like carnivore diet and low carb, keto, and stuff like that, and especially around people who are there's this new brand of person called cholesterol deniers. which, yeah,
Oh,
so these are people who think that cholesterol, particularly LDL cholesterol, isn't bad and you don't need to worry about it as long as you are metabolically healthy, whatever
yeah.
that means. Um, there's all
Insulin
sorts of
spikes as
yeah.
well,
Well,
isn't
I'm
it?
seeing more and more influences. I'm not going to mention names because I do not want people to I don't want to raise people's awareness of them, but there's there's a lot and it's these people have got millions of followers. We're talking like 1-2 million followers across social media, and they're saying you don't need fiber. It baffles me. If your goal is health, optimal health, if it's weight management, then fiber is massively important. It's going to reduce your risk of diabetes, type 2 diabetes, reduce your risk of heart disease, stroke. It's going to reduce your risk of quite a lot of different types of cancers. It will help improve your gut health, okay, your digestive system. So it's going to reduce the incidences of things like IBS. It helps you feel fuller, so you feel less hungry, so it's easier to manage your weight. So fiber is important. How to increase it? Well, the basic first thing is 5 a day. Get your 5 a day in. It's worrying that only sort of 30% of people in this country are even getting 3 or 4 portions of veg in. Yeah. And in terms of fiber, the average fiber intake for somebody in the UK is about 15 grams. The recommended amount's about 25 to 30 grams, depending on, your calorie intake, how many calories you're eating. If you want a rough guide, it's about 14 grams per 1,000 calories, right? So if your calorie intake's 2,000 calories, you're aiming for around about 28 grams as a good sort of minimum target. If you're currently only eating sort of 10 to 15, then going up to 28 to 30 grams, you might notice a little bit of digestive discomfort. You might notice a bit of bloating. Persevere, your body will acclimatize and get used
Yeah.
to it. Yeah, and that's perfectly normal. You might notice that, and that is because your body's just not used to it. All right, and your gut bacteria aren't used to it. But get your fiber in. Get it from a range of stuff. So I would say a portion of fruit with your breakfast or as a morning snack, and then trying to get 2 portions of veg with your lunchtime and evening meal. And a portion is something that's about the size of a fist or a good handful, and then or 80 grams. Yeah, so that's a portion, rough thing. I tend to do like 80 grams of berries in with, if I'm having Greek yogurt or my overnight oats, 80 grams of berries in there. Or I'll have it, my overnight oats this week were peanut butter ones. It was great. But I'll have a banana with it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Still thing.
so you've got the portion in there, or I'll have a portion of grapes or an apple or an orange or something like that for fruit. And then veg, just loads of salad. Avocado's particularly good for fiber. Nuts and seeds. I'll add chia seeds in with my oats or flax seeds. I'll have nuts sometimes on there as well, and loads of So 5 a day, fruit and veg, nuts and seeds in with stuff. Avocados are good. Porridge oats. I know I've had fun and games with my porridge oats recipes, but porridge oats are good for fiber as well. What
Yeah.
else? Beans,
Whole grains. Yeah.
whole beans,
Beans,
yeah, beans,
beans,
lentils,
pulses.
pulses.
Yeah.
So it's not difficult
I
if
think
you think
it's,
about plan
yeah,
it.
I think that's it. Because I had this, like when I started, I didn't necessarily need to be tracking for like calories, protein. I sort of knew where I was at, but was just make sure everything else was optimal for health. And I noticed middle of last year that my fiber was like really low, even though I was eating like quite balanced meals. So it was really putting the focus in. It was one of those where I just started adding like flax seeds into my smoothies, mixing them with like oats, like adding a little bit, still I'd have my 80 grams of fruit in my smoothie, but I'd just up that slightly like more, and like all of those things that you can add, like if I'm having a chip, like I don't know, anything for dinner, I'd have like 3 bean salad mixed in with that and just trying to increase it ever so slightly. Like it wasn't massively low, but it was just lower than optimal. So just by making those small changes, actually, for overall health, it makes a difference. So
It does. It does,
yeah,
and it makes it easier to stick with your calories. And I think that's the key thing. It's the same with protein. The
yeah,
first thing I would say is that if you want to increase your intake, is look at where you've got your fiber already,
yeah,
and then just increase what you're. And the same with protein. Look at where your protein is, and increase your portion of protein. So if you're having a chicken salad and you're only putting half a chicken breast in, stick the rest of the breast in, stick it all in.
Yeah.
If you're having a spaghetti bolognese and you've got half the plate of pasta and then one spoonful of sauce, then add another spoonful of sauce and reduce the pasta a little bit. Or if you're having pasta, go for a whole grain pasta or something like that, a wholemeal pasta. Yeah, adding beans into things like the bolognese or lentils or something like that, just to help boost it. So look at where you are, look at what you're eating for your fiber, look at what you're eating for your protein, first of all, and then just increase the portion. And that's the key thing. And if you don't know where you find your fiber and your protein, then check out, my page, Fit Food Lover. I've got loads of stuff on there for fiber intake. And you can have a look and see what high fiber foods are. But if you just Google it, high fiber foods, it'll give you a list. General guide, like we say, fruit, veg, pulses and legumes, nuts and seeds, and then you're not getting whole grains, and you're not going to go far wrong. The fruit thing leads into something that I've been asked a couple of times this week, and about sugar. And you encourage, so it's like encourage fruit. What about the sugar? Or what about the sugar in food? Do we need to worry about sugar? To a degree, yeah. But if we're avoiding fruit because we're panicking about sugar, then I'm sorry, but there's something wrong with the world.
Yeah. When there's, to me, I would say, when looking at reducing sugars and people are worrying about having too much sugar in the diet, you should more be looking at your fizzy drinks, your sweets, your chocolate, what I guess foods that are typically labeled as your junk foods. That's the sugars that are the ones you want to be worrying about. Ones that are coming from your fruit isn't something you want to be worrying about overly in terms of overall health.
Yeah. And I mean, yes, there are some foods with added sugars, and you do need to think about reducing and moderating the added sugars. Okay. So if you are eating, and again, it's processed foods, a lot of them have sugar added because it improves the taste. But I had one person saying, Greek yogurt full of sugar, especially, fat-free Greek yogurt full of sugar. It's like, no, it's not. Yes, it will have more sugar relative to, full fat yogurt, but that's because you've had the fat removed and the calories are coming from the protein and the carbs, the small amount of carbohydrates. So yeah, if you've removed fat from the yogurt, then there will be slightly more sugar, but it's not been added to it. Okay. It's just that you've removed one thing. So there's going to be proportionally more of the other. Fruits, and sugars in fruit and stuff like that, it's fine. And ultimately what you've got to think about is that any carbohydrate we consume is ultimately going to be broken down into sugars. And, don't worry about kind of fructose, glucose, and all of that sort of stuff, because it's all broken down into those things anyway. Yeah. And there was a paper that they did recently where they were looking at the breakdown of fruit, honey, table sugar, all of this sort of stuff. And it's a 50-50 split between glucose and fructose from pretty much every source. Yeah. Obviously you've got milk in sugars, sugars in milk.
Yeah.
Get that the right way around. Sugars in milk. You've got lactose in milk as well as other sugars. So don't stress about sugar. It's everywhere. And if you eat carbohydrates, your body is going to be breaking it down into that. Ultimately, it's the body's preferred energy source. The body wants glucose. And even if you think, well, I'm going to cut out all carbs, it is going to make glucose from other sources. All right. Gluconeogenesis. That means building new sugar. Because our brain and our nervous system wants sugar. If you completely cut out carbs, it can work off something called ketone bodies. We're getting into too technical terms here, but effectively it will break down other substances to make sugar. All right. So stressing about if you've got 2 grams of, I had this, one of the questions, he had a soup and it had 9 grams in the whole carton. And I said, did you eat the whole carton? No, had half of it. Right. That's 4.5 grams. It's a tablespoon of sugar. If you are stressing about a tablespoon of sugar, which is about 4 grams, then you're overthinking things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of putting things in context. So yeah, sugar, do you need to worry about it? To a degree, yeah, you need to look at added sugar, try and reduce it. And particularly if you're diabetic or pre-diabetic, then yes, we will need to think about sugar intake for the insulin response. But for the average healthy person, if you are eating a balanced diet, prioritizing whole food, yes, you've got fruit in there, that's fine, but it's whole food, minimally processed food, or reducing the amount of processed food you have, you're fine.
And I guess that links in quite nicely to your other ones about clean eating and processed foods as well, really.
I mean, there's a big thing, isn't there, about clean eating and processed food? And I think there's a book, what was it? Ultra Processed People, I think the book was. And I've read it myself. And do you know what? It's really frustrating because that book, there's some really, really good information in there. But then the kind of the spin on it is trying to demonize this food. And
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah. Yes, as a society, generally, we eat too much ultra processed food. I think the figure in there was you've got somewhere between 60 and 80 or 65 and 85% of the average Western diet is ultra processed. It is high. Yeah. And you're going to be low on certain micronutrients and mineral and nutrients because of that. We need to reduce that. So yeah, but to cut it out, and as we said before we come on, unless you grow your own veg and pick it yourself, unless you are raising your own meat, slaughtering it and butchering it yourself, then everything that we're pretty much eating is going to be processed to a degree. We should focus on perhaps single ingredient foods or try and prioritize single ingredient foods. So, if you're going to make stuff from scratch, look at getting your veg, and putting the veg and making your bologneses and stuff from scratch from the basic things. And reducing the amount of processed foods you have down to say 20-25% of your diet, which is fine. But to cut it out completely is almost going too far the other way. There is an eating disorder called orthorexia.
Yeah, which I think we discussed last week as well, didn't we? Yeah.
And that's having disordered eating is worse for your health.
Yeah.
Than consuming a little bit of processed food every now and then.
Yeah.
It's taking things in context and thinking about it. And then, as we said before, if you avoid all ultra processed foods, then you are actually avoiding or cutting out unnecessarily some healthy, quite healthy options that are cheap, accessible, readily available, like baked beans. Get yourself a good quality baked bean. They're high fiber, high protein. Get the reduced sugar ones if you're worried about the sugar, the reduced sodium ones if you're worried about your salt. Get those. They're actually a good kind of food. And I was watching. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of He's not Dr. Michael Mosley, but I caught one of his programs where he was, talking about fiber, and he used the lentils, the pre-packed lentils in the microwave packs. Those are fine. If you say, oh, can't have that because it's processed. If that's a way of getting good fiber into you, have it.
Yeah.
And
like to me, they're so quick and easy. You just have like the rice pouches, and I know it's not hard to boil up the rice, but when it's already pre-portioned, I don't have to think about it after a long day. If it's going to make things quicker and easier for you to get those things in, it's still going to be better than you opting for fast food all the time.
And that's the thing. It's removing barriers. And we've said this before, ultimately we're evolved to look for the most efficient and easiest path to do whatever we want to do. And if you are wanting to eat healthily and you're wanting to eat a balanced diet, then looking for something that is convenient, that means you're going to get enough protein, enough fiber, enough of the different micronutrients in there. Yes, it might be processed, but if it's convenient and actually it's giving you enough calories, protein, carbs, fats, whatever, and it's going to make you eat more healthily rather than reach for the phone and order a takeaway, then use it. Don't demonize it, because if we make those barriers too high for people to access nutritious food, they ain't going to do it.
No, absolutely. So yeah, it's one of those. I think it's going to continue to be a buzzword, and it's just being aware that we don't need to worry as much as they're trying to scaremonger you into.
Yeah, and I think actually what you've got to think is, if anybody is selling, and I think this is a good tip for anything in terms of nutrition, if they are selling what appears to be an extreme viewpoint, so either they're cutting out foods or macronutrients, or they're telling you that you have to eat in a certain way, or that they're saying, their way is best, then that's a red flag. And then if they start doing that, have a look and see if they're trying to sell something. Are they trying to sell a diet? Are they trying to push a book? Are they trying to push something? Yes, I mean, okay, we for transparency, we do try and sell a plan, but we don't sell a diet. We sell a way of building a healthy lifestyle, and that lifestyle is tailored to every single one of the people who go through the program. We tailor that lifestyle to them. So we've got loads of different people. There are people we've got people who are looking to reduce their blood sugars to try and put diabetes into remission. We've got people who are just looking to lose a little bit of body fat. We've got people who want to build a little bit of muscle. They're all different goals. And what we're trying to do is show them how they can build a lifestyle that fits around their life, that allows them to reach their goals and is sustainable. We're not putting out, and we both of us agree with this, and we've said before, we like chocolate. We'll include chocolate. We're never going to tell people to cut out stuff like chocolate. We'll never tell people that you've got to stop drinking, but learn how to fit it in moderation within your life.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's the key thing, because if you try and cut something out, the second you stop following that plan or you start introducing it back in, you will see your body change again, and then you'll feel like this is the only way to lose weight or to reach that goal, and it's absolutely not. And it has to be sustainable for you, because no one's going to cut out carbs forever.
No, at some point it's going to come back in, and if you can't learn how to manage it within your diet, when you do introduce it, you're just going to go back into your old ways. So it is all about habit. And that's kind of what we try and do here, is get people to realize that you've got to look at building routines and habits. And I think we should do one of these sessions on habit building. So that's two things now. We've got creatine and habit building that we've got to go through.
Next 2 weeks done.
Done, sorted. Cool. I think, is that it? Have we got any more? Those are my two.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Good. Sorted. All right then, guys. Hopefully, those of you who listen to it, you find it useful. Again, if you do have questions, I post it up on my stories. So please do ask questions or message us or put comments on the posts. We will be. So we've just done week 4 of the Shape Up in 6 program. It will be opening up again in about 4 or 5 weeks' time. So we'll push it a little bit on this, and look out for the socials. If you want to find out a little bit more, drop us a message. Drop me or Alice a message. So you've got Fit Food Lover. Alice, what's your handle?
Al Nutrition _.
AL Nutrition _. If you've got any questions, ask us. And we'll give you sort of anything, answer any questions on that you want. But yeah, it is an 8-week program that is designed to help you build a routine and habit around your lifestyle that allows you to reach your goal no matter what. And it's not cookie cutter. It's not like, you're not all given the same calories and off you go. We give you regular check-ins. So we have a daily accountability post within the group. We have weekly check-ins, either by video call or video feedback. And, we've seen some really, really good progress within the girls. And we've so much so that we've got 2 or 3 of them that have done it a few times now and are continuing to make progress. So
yeah, good.
So it's good. Right, guys, that is it. That is us Friday done. I'm going to go and have some tea, and then I'm working at 8 again in the morning.
Me too. Weekend warriors, Will. We've got this.
Weekend warriors. All right, Alice, I will catch up with you soon. And to the rest of you guys, have a great weekend and bye for now.
Bye.